Hi, class. Just want to go over the discussion questions that you had for last week. Our first one discussed, this was all on procedural safeguards. So the first one is a student brings a weapon to school and keeps it in his locker. Another student is aware of the weapon and reports it to the teacher. The school opens the student's locker, finds a large knife, and suspends the students to an IAES, which is an interim alternative education placement, pending a manifestation conference. The parent files for due process indicating that A, another placement cannot be made without parental consent, and B, that the due process request initiates the stay put procedures. So who is legally correct? In this case, it is the public school. Anytime a student brings a weapon to school, causes seriously bodily harm, or possesses or sells illegal drugs, schools have a right to immediately remove that student from the educational placement and place them in an alternative setting. Also, the due process is stay put, which means once due process has been initiated that the student has to stay in that educational placement. Doesn't necessarily apply when it's dealing with those three type of special cases. A manifestation conference will still be held, but they can remove the student before that conference has been held. So in that case, it is the public school. Question 2 says, during a student's manifestation conference, the committee decides there is no relationship between the student's behavior and his disability. The decision is based upon a discussion of the student's IEP and placement, the services, aids, and intervention strategies that were provided, his ability to understand the impact and consequence of the behavior, and his ability to control his behavior. The student's FBA and BIP were also considered. The parents argued that the student was coerced by peers to misbehave, and that could be a reason for finding a relationship. The LE agreed that the possibility of an extenuated relationship may have occurred, but that in itself is not sufficient for a casual relationship to be found. So who is legally correct and why? In this case, it is the public school. Just because a student maybe was coerced into doing something, if that had no effect because of their disability, then there is no relationship because you're actually looking at the student's disability. And because of their disability, was that a direct result on the behavior that they used? It can be made case that for any time any student ever has a misbehavior, gets in trouble, that it could have been a coercion or it could have been because of peer pressure or things along those lines. So that was not sufficient enough to find that relationship. So it is the public school that's correct. All right, on question 3. A school district has a policy that interim alternative educational settings can be unilaterally applied without parental consent when weapons, drugs, or bodily injury upon another person are involved. A group of parents filed a state complaint arguing that only weapons and drugs are subject to unilateral placement. Who is legally correct and why? Again, in this case, it is the public school. We're been back to those 3 reasons of when those are superseding circumstances that students need to have that placement in an alternative setting. For example, if a student was to stab another student, or if they were to actually beat them, so to speak, or hurt them to the point where it causes serious injury, that student can be removed from the school and placed in an alternative setting. You're still going to go through the manifestation conference and then proceed through that way, but you do not have to have parent permission first. So that's kind of going over our discussion questions you've got coming up. In the next week, your state law, so make sure you're working on that. I think you guys did a great job on your discussion. I saw a few of you still kind of back and forth between the parent and the school, so make sure you look back at those. Of course, as always, I give you credit for the discussion. I'm not necessarily grading your discussion for this because these are circumstantial situations. but you guys did a really good job. I hope you have a great week. We'll talk soon. Bye.